Cathedral Square Public Realm Improvement Project.
So this again came through ITI, and so just note the focus is mainly on the southeast and southwest portions of the square, and the intention is to coordinate this with the private developments as per 1.2 on page 349, quoting the resolution from the 2018-28 LTP, which basically reads that the council endorses these public realm improvements within existing budgets to tie in with planned private sector developments. The existing budget is 9.44 million. We're seeking today endorsement to contribute 3.6 of that to these improvements. So we're aware that the Cathedral Square must remain open for business even while the restoration is occurring around the cathedral. It's an incredibly busy centre of town, it's the heart of our city, so it must remain open to business, and we'll have to manage that. But the public realm project we're discussing here today, first and foremost, will address any small safety concerns, and there are a few, and including some improved lighting on the north side, which is super important with the imminent opening of Turanga there. And the bulk of the project will incorporate Regenerate Christchurch vision, so none of this work will be contrary to that. 5.1 expands on the planned private developments at the southeast, which is the old BNZ site, and that's going to be tenanted by Spark, so there'll be quite a few employees housed in there. Also the former ANZ on the opposite corner, the southwest corner, and it'll also incorporate a Strand Lane. There'll also be some improvements in front of what was the old Warner's Hotel. I'm sure some of us are familiar with that site. And looking at a huge increase in foot traffic there in the square when you look at all those things opening. Also, you'll note that the intention is to reuse as many existing materials as that is practicable to assist with the budget. So there's planned pre-engagement with stakeholders, and the design will be out for public consultation by, I think, April 2019, all going well. So the committee supported this, however there were 2 opposed. Happy to move.
You're happy to move? Do I have a seconder? Is that you seconding, Dion? Okay. Dion?
I'll do the question. Is there consultation on this?
We're just talking about that, so
it's not clear in the report.
It depends on the scope, but given the time frame and the reuse of materials, I would think that we would want to make sure that it's targeted consultation with the adjacent building owners, right, potentially with the Central City Business Association, and depending on where we get to with the considerations that you might make around the Central City Action Plan, there may also be some other key targeted consultation, but I would not expect that this is wide public consultation.
So it's more like an engagement with the affected stakeholders there. Okay. And the other one, I mean, I'm just...
And Regenerate Christchurch too, obviously. Yeah.
I'm not on ITI, so I might not have seen this, but I just wanted to know what actually is happening here, and is it in line with the Regenerate Christchurch plan? Because there's a massive difference in budgets, and I'm just... Yeah, no, but I'm still just a little bit confused with this.
Well, that's why I threw Regenerate Christchurch down
I'm quite confused by this
as
because
well. I mean, it's going to be important to work in collaboration.
Yes, I mean, we're approving $3 million here. The Regenerate Christchurch plan was, upwards of
yeah, but that hasn't come to us formally for any response.
And I'm just worried that we do something in piecemeal like this, and then we're doing something else. I'm just, how is this working?
Wasn't this a response to to our request as a result of the submissions that we received from building owners during the LTP?
Yeah.
I mean, didn't we ask staff to go away and do this work as a priority?
Yeah, but I'm just confused that maybe, are we going to be redoing something in the future around this?
Look, there may be something that gets redone in the future, but if we don't do these areas now, then they're going to be like they are when brand new buildings open and foot traffic increases immensely. So I just think it's an...
I mean, I just look at the report and I actually don't know what's going to be done.
No, we don't yet, because they're going to scope the public realm improvement project, including the reuse of existing materials and investigate new elements where it's cost effective to do so. So, I mean, it's, that work is being done. If it's, I mean, I don't know. If you want to hold it up,
we had a big
fine,
plan
but
that
I
Regenerate
don't want to
Christchurch
hold it
have shown
up.
us.
This is what we decided at the LTP.
Discussed
was-
this at length at ITI, and we were assured that none of this work would be contrary to what Regen has got planned, that it will actually fit in. None of this work will be wasted or redone.
That's right. Yeah.
We asked the question, and that's the answer that we got. Is that correct?
Anyway, I've got a few questions here. So Mike and then Yanni.
Actually, this is the question I want to get some clarity around. So Dion asked it, but it wasn't answered. Is any of this work temporary? Will it be undone because of Regenerate's vision?
So we would anticipate that because of the construction that is going to be undertaken in the square over the next 7 to 10 years, that the works that are done now, which will concentrate on, well, the area in front of Turanga has largely been done, but in the part of the square between Worcester Street and Colombo Street will last for at least that period of time. So 7 to 10 years, we would anticipate that these works will last. And actually, I can't hand on heart give you advice around what the city will look like in that time and what the council will want to do at that time. But these works could last beyond that as well.
So I guess my question is, of the $3.6 million we're about to approve right now, how much of that potentially is only going to last 10 years?
I don't know that I can answer that. Can you answer that question?
If you have a look at the new Spark building in the corner, it's built to a higher level, and so even if we just did exactly bare minimum, we are going to have to lift that. So some of the foundation works that will be done as part of this contract will last for ever, really, because, will last as long as the Spark building will last for, which will probably outsee me. So some of the work that you're going to do, they're going to have to do some drainage works to actually move. If you go in there and move some of the water, there's some issues around that, around the pavement and the breaking of the pavement. So what we're doing is enough to actually lift it. The problem is that we don't actually have the full plans of what they're going to do with the cathedral and all the rest of it, so it gets very hard. So we're doing the bare minimum to actually make sure it's functional around all of those buildings and businesses that are open, but we're also going to try and make it an attractive looking place, and if they can incorporate any of those ideas that Regen Christchurch have got in their plans, they are going to try and do that. So if we can do that successfully, it might stay there for 20 years or 30 years, but if they come out and pull down the cathedral and it goes all over it.
I appreciate that. I'm just struggling with the fact that I can't get a real answer around, of the $3.6 million, actually, potentially there's going to be a significant amount that will be wasted because it will have to be redone in 10 years. And it's just trying to get an idea in my mind before I vote on this, actually how much is potentially just going to be there for a short period of time.
The biggest expense will be setting up the foundations of it, because we're going to have to lift everything, or lift a significant part of it around the skirt building anyway. I think, and I'm not sure, we haven't done the survey, so...
You're on skirt again.
Sorry?
You said skirt building.
Oh, yeah, Spark building. And we're going to do some work in around OGB and around the new, I call it the Millennium, but it's not that, it's...
Distinction.
Yes, Distinction Hotel, so that we can pull that. So we're going to try and utilise, if we can do it well, it might, like we say, it might last for 20 years.
And I've got Yanni next, but I'm just trying to get, are we able to get confirmation that the spend here is not going, well, we haven't even received the report from Regen
If it's helpful, I just asked Alistair and Lee, what is the life left in the paving? So
right.
There is 15 to 20 years life left in the paving that will be reused in Cathedral Square. So that is the life of the surface, but of course, as Dave has just identified, the works, the recontouring of the square, once it's done, it's done. So actually the access to those buildings is secured for beyond that period of time, because we've actually made the levels work from the buildings into the public realm.
But just looking at some of the, sticking to that south west corner, is there any area that you will reinstate the paving stones, reusing them, that could in the future be set aside as it has been in the plan for grass, or is that on the other side of the road?
No, it's just in these areas.
It is in these areas that the plan, which council hasn't yet
Formally
received. So depending on in 15 or 20 years' time, what council is planning to do once all of the construction in the square is completed, then there may be some reworking of some of that. But that's I guess I would suggest that that's a financial and a decision of council at that time.
Right. So that yeah. Okay. Well, we're not going to be in a position in the next 10 to 15 years of making a decision in relation to a revamp of that part of that area.
No.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Yanni.
I thought the thing that people got quite positive on was the introducing of the greenaway, particularly in this corner. So I just don't understand why we wouldn't actually be doing, even if we just did that chunk, that quarter of the square to the regen plan, why wouldn't we just do it?
I think that's one of the key things we're going to look at. So the key elements are the paving renewals, and we've got to look at lighting in terms of infrastructure, because we don't meet a level of service at the moment. I don't know if you've walked through Cathedral Square of an evening at the moment, but it doesn't look very good. It isn't an inviting environment, and we'll certainly look at the greening concepts for Regenerate, because I think that was one of the positive things that came through the consultation, that people wanted to see a more friendlier environment in Cathedral Square. So that'll absolutely one of the first things we'll look at. This report is about allowing us to initiate the project, understand the scope, come back to you with our priorities and seek soundings from the council and the community that we've got it right. So this is about initiating a project. We haven't got resources working on this at the moment, and so until we initiate the project, we can't understand it fully and we can't come back to you. But
okay, thank you. So I think the gap for me is kind of the process for it to come back to us before we go, because as the point that's been made, it's quite hard. I mean, a lot of the text actually sounds quite good, reusing stuff, being cost efficient, getting synergy, but because we can't actually see what's being proposed, it's quite hard to just go, oh cool, go away and spend the money. And there seems to be confusion over the level of engagement, so I would personally feel a lot more comfortable. I think there should be public engagement, Regenerate publicly engaged. I don't think just limited stakeholder targeting is the right way to go for anything to do with Cathedral Square, given how we've just seen this morning that a wide number of people have an interest. So I would just like to ask if there was consideration given to a resolution that specifies, some sort of draft plan coming back to us at some stage, and then it going out for engagement, public engagement.
I mean, that was very helpful, Lee, actually. So if we take number 3, approve the funding for the project from the LTP Capital Project ID 2735, because that's what you need to kick things off, the square and surrounds. And why don't we just make that subject to a report back on the proposals. Sorry? On the design and the proposals. It doesn't allow you to start. Well, it allows you to start it. It's approve the funding to commence the
Probably two
project from the LTP, etc., etc.,
Initiate.
to initiate, the project. Thank you, and then say and request a report back. So initiate the project instead of subject to a report back, and request a report back for confirmation of the the design and the proposals. Well, it's just the design proposals, isn't it? And request a report back for confirmation on the design proposals. And that way, I mean, as Region Christchurch has to come to us, you come back to us with a specific one. If it's on all fours with where they were heading in this particular area, then I actually don't know that it's required to go out for another set of consultation, but it may well be that there's no harm in just putting it out on the internet and asking people what they think of it. So, yeah.
It was following on from the presentation this morning. It did occur to me that one of the issues with the Citizens Memorial is the ability to have some use of it in the immediate to short-term future or medium future while the cathedral gets restored. Given that part of this work is actually looking at the former Warner's Hotel and is in that vicinity, is there scope to kind of look and say, you know, we could put something together that would enable people to utilise that for events, or is that just too difficult?
No, that's exactly what Lee just expanded upon there, was to look at the lighting, and also from the lighting you also look at power as well for events and for ensuring that we've got activation in those areas as well.
Sorry, I was more meaning very specifically around the RSA and the use of the cenotaph.
So
You'd have to look over a
staff
fence.
have had an initial discussion
You
with
have to look over the fence.
Well, this on the other side, this is just about the areas in front of
we have
Southeast, southwest at the moment
No,
is the corner.
Warner's Hotel.
So it's
Oh,
northeast.
you
the
need to
northeast.
use your microphones if you're going to talk. Because
Sorry, Warner's Hotel
people
is
can't
on
hear.
the same side as the cenotaph.
Yeah.
And again, this is about working with the developers who are actually working in the southeast and southwest corners right now. I presume as we work through this investigation into what we can do, we will be advising back to council on what we can do in the northwest and the northeast corners as well at that point, as to how much work we can do. But again, it's an understanding of what other stakeholders in the square are actually doing and what areas they're activating as well. So.
Tim and then Dion.
Just following on from that, if you're going to talk about events, then I'd suggest if you could involve the event production companies, not council alone, because you've got some expertise in the city which is nationally appreciated, perhaps not here so much, but it would be really good because where we envisage those that aren't involved in the industry and where they should actually be and what they should be would be really handy from the start.
It's a really good point. One of the things we've heard is that the cost of actually holding events in Cathedral Square is really high because you have to bring in generators and there's no infrastructure, so that is actually prohibitive to actually activation, so it's completely right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Dion. Dion.
That's good to know. In regards to the Spark building area, the broken area, the broken tiles that are there at the moment, were they paid for by was there any income from the last, from the demolition of the BNZ building? Because that was damaged quite severely from that.
Yeah, I'd say it'd be hard to prove who did that damage at that time, because they worked from within. When they demolished the external, the building itself, they worked from a certain point, and they had at that point created a platform they were working off. Prior damage, the damage that we're talking about in particular, is between the two major planters. That damage was done in the Sierra days, unfortunately. It's been there for a long time.
God, okay. And the raised, you're saying that the Spark building is raised a little bit from that area, but what about from Hereford Street?
It's same.
So we need to lift up Hereford Street?
Well, we are anyway. Naturally, we'll contour to suit the new levels, floor levels.
Well, that's interesting. So is that being consulted on through the actual, or is that being taken into account through the work that's going on Hereford Street?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And the other question I had is that the cathedral reinstatement, the Act basically says that they can utilise the entire cathedral square. So are we confident that if they need to, are we confident that the areas, if we're going to improve any of these areas, that it's not going to be required under that Act to do for the Cathedral reinstatement?
Talk to the stakeholders.
So that's ongoing conversation with the Cathedral Reinstatement Joint Venture to understand their set-down area, their vehicle movements and what's possible there. But of course, if this work is done, then there is an understanding of the condition of that environment, and effectively there could be a before and after condition survey undertaken should that be required, and that may be something that's helpful for council to have in relation to other developments that will occur around the square as well. So that would then speak to your point around who would pay for any damage.
Words there, sorry, I didn't turn on my own mic. So that request a report back for confirmation on design proposals. Yep. Good. All right, well, I'll put that motion. Yep. Sorry, Aaron?
Are we doing any debate?
Oh, yeah, you know, if sorry, I put the motion and people call for debate. Yep. So anyone wants to speak to it. There are two other items on the agenda, so I'm going to have to go shortly, and I don't really want to miss.
I'll be
anyway.
quick.
No. I'm not saying you, because there are lots of other speakers now. So so I've got you, Phil, Pauline. You moved it, so I'll leave you to the end. Sarah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
At the committee level, two did vote against it. It was myself and Mike the Grinch that were reluctant to spend the money in the square. And for the point that Mike raised before, I'm reluctant to spend any more money in the square ever that's not essentially permanent. In my lifetime, there's been, I think, 3 or 4 makeovers of the square, all costing millions of dollars. And I have a picture I just looked up of cobblestones that are still dead straight there, laid in Greece 1,800 years ago. So I'm sure we could lay some in the square that could last a while, unless we're just buying soft stone or cheap stone or something. But we do it and do it once and have something we're proud of that just stays there for lifetimes. And it's strange that we spend money and then redo it and re-spend it. So that is the one reason I won't. Other than that, I do support those buildings going in. I do support the rejuvenation of the square. It's the heart of our city, but we've got to get it right and only spend the money once. This rebuild's taken way too long and it's costing way too much money, and redoing anything within 10 years is just insanity in my book.
Phil?
Thank you. I'm very supportive of just getting on with this. No one wants this to take longer than it should. I understand from the report, the Spark building is opening in the middle of next year. We have to support those people as stakeholders, as well as the other ones. So, you know, everyone wants our inner city to look good. We want people to come. We want the events, as Tim Scannett referred before. So we just have to get on and do this, actually.
Sarah?
Thank you. Just because some of this work may be temporary or last only for a decade doesn't mean that it's money wasted. We know that we need to make the heart of our city both attractive for people to come and stop and shop and coffee and attend events, and for the businesses who have invested money in building in the area of the square in spite of the state of the cathedral. Our residents' survey showed that people, especially women, do not feel safe walking through the CBD at night in the city. And if we want a vibrant CBD as soon as possible, we need to fix that. People need to feel safe walking from the terraces to the Theatre Royal through the square at night, and all of those different things. And we need good lighting to do that, and to do that we need funding. We need places that aren't hidden in shadows, and if we want people back in our CBD, they need to feel safe and it needs to be attractive, and we need to help those businesses as well.
Dion?
The only reason I'll support this today is because of exactly that reason, that the Cathedral Square is a little bit dark at night, and safety in our central city is absolutely important, and that's something that a lot of people have been saying to us over the last little while. The having to do this work because of the buildings that are getting built there, and needing to pay for them to raise the level of our ground because of, you know, their building is going higher, I do struggle a little bit with. So, I mean, I'm a little bit dubious about sort of some of that stuff, but I'd like to see the work come back and actually give us an idea of what we're going to be doing there, so that we can actually sort of have a visual idea, so that we can actually tell people.
Yep, Mike.
Thank you. I voted against this at the ITE committee meeting. I do have concerns. Obviously, the budget we have for the square is not that great when you look at the vision that's been put forward. And it's really important, I guess, that we use this money wisely. And we hear time and time again from the community, do it once and do it right. I'm going to support this because of the inclusion of 3 that will actually come back to us for us to have a look at before it actually gets done. I think that's really important. The square does need some work. It's actually making sure that what we do in there actually is going to last a long, long time. We've got to make our dollar go as far as possible. Yes, the square needs to be tidied up. There's places around there, obviously right now, that's just very, very untidy. But what we can't do is just throw away money, and we're not talking small amounts of money here, we're talking lots of money for something that is not going to last a long, long time. But with the inclusion of 3, I will support this.
Before I come to you, Pauline, I am going to say something and I wasn't going to, but I think this is critical. You know, we cannot afford not to support these major businesses that are investing in our city. You know, if I were a private business owner and I'd been given a big chunk of change as a result of an insurance payout, would I have put all of my money into building into Cathedral Square in the state that it's in? These businesses have asked us to front up and fix the entrances to their buildings. We've heard staff say the buildings are higher because of I guess the flood levels that they're required to build to. We've required them to build to those levels. They're doing it right. We need to back them up. You know, we've had businesses talk to us, speak to us about the challenges that are faced within the CBD. For heaven's sake, they said light up the city. That was one of their key messages to us. They said, make sure that the place is inviting, that people are able to enter and join in. And the events, I've listened to Tim Scandrett long enough to know that the events have to have a reason for bringing people into the centre of our city, and the best way to do that is to provide the infrastructure to support those events, and also to have events that bring in children. And when you've got a brand new library in the middle of our square, it's going to be such an attractor. You know, I just don't think anyone should underestimate what Tūranga is going to bring to the centre of the city. So the city has invested, the private businesses have invested, and we need to make this investment. And as Mike has said, we've got a report back for confirmation on the design proposals. The regen position is going to be taken well into account, and I've taken great comfort from that, along with the reuse of materials. I'm really looking forward, and I think the challenge I want to put to staff is come back with something brilliant, and we'll love you for it. No, I didn't want to start.
Angie, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Vicky, and then Yanni, and then Pauline.
As at the ITE committee, when we looked at this, one of the things that's really important about Cathedral Square is that it is a huge footpath. So we're actually doing massive footpath repair here. And if you look at it now and you try walking on some of those areas in the square, they are bumpy, they're dangerous. If you're taking anybody on a mobility scooter, Aaron, or anything like that, it is incredibly dangerous. If you're taking kids in pushchairs or anything, it is not a good place to be at the moment. So the major footpath that is the square needs to be done up. The lights need to be there. this is actually where a heap of people are going to be walking. And if we can incorporate some greenery, that's great. You don't need to incorporate the rest of the regen plan because I don't think it will ever be adopted. So you can leave out that 100 million, but just in terms of getting $3 million worth of basic work done so that people can actually walk around the very heart of their city, this seems to me to be a no-brainer. Yanni.
Yeah, I just wanted to support the comments that were made by Councillor Davidson. You know, I would have been reluctant, but we've got 3, so I'll just say ditto to that. We'll get the report that can come back. I really do look forward to the greenery. You know, for me, seeing kids playing hacky sack in the square again would be perfect, because it would just give an example of people using the outdoor space, particularly in summer, with nice grassed areas. And, you know, I just think we need to just ensure when we get the report back that it does align with what Regen have proposed and that there won't be a waste of money going forward, because I think it is important. And we just saw the brilliant presentation today earlier at council from, you know, young people that are doing amazing stuff, bringing events into the square kind of wider area. And I think, you know, if we build on that energy, then doing this is actually really important to help with that. So I support it.
Thank you. Pauline.
Yeah, look, thank you. And I just really endorse what you've said, Leanne. It's really hit the nail on the head. Is pretty much what I was going to say. That we owe it to these private investors to support them. And this is all about the public realm. We owe it to improve that amenity. We've heard that we're actually doing the bare minimum here to make it functional. And 3.6 million, yes, it's a lot of money, but when you're looking at doing things like drainage infrastructure and foundation works, those things which will last for many, many years, they're permanent works, it actually doesn't go that far. So, and also this is part of the cost share, 50% will be funded from the Crown. So, you know, we're looking at the square, what's happening, particularly in this quarter, you've got all these developments and the huge increase in employees that will be coming into there. Local visitors will be coming in, especially with Turanga. And then we've got our tourists, and tourism brought in $406 million last year. We have to have this amenity and also the safety addressed. As Vicky said, it's a nightmare trying to walk through there. So I'm really excited about this, actually. I really am. I'm looking forward to the design coming back. I think it's something we absolutely have to do, in all fairness. So I'll be supporting it, and I really hope the rest of you do too.
Excellent. I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. Aaron Kewen. And that motion is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.